The morning started like any other at Zenith Academy, the prestigious interstellar university where species from across the galaxy gathered to learn. Maya Chen sat near the back of the xenobiology lecture hall, her posture carefully relaxed, her breathing controlled. She had perfected the art of looking ordinary over the past 2 years. Around her, students from a dozen different worlds filled the tiered seating. To her left sat Krethax, a Veltorian whose crystalline skin refracted the overhead lights into dancing rainbows. To her right, Janara tapped notes with her 6 graceful arms, her chitinous shell clicking softly with each movement. Further down the row, a gaseous thinker named Vol floated in his containment sphere, his form shifting between purple and blue as he concentrated. Maya looked utterly unremarkable by comparison. Brown hair pulled into a simple ponytail, average height, wearing the standard academy jumpsuit. Human, fragile, weak. That was what everyone saw, and that was exactly what she wanted them to see. Professor Takora, a dignified Zenthari with elegant head tendrils, was lecturing about adaptive evolution in extreme environments. Maya took notes, keeping her hand steady, her grip on the datapad light. Everything about her screamed normalcy, but inside she was calculating. Always calculating. The lecture hall was kept at standard galactic temperature, which humans found uncomfortably warm. Maya had learned to ignore the heat, to keep her skin from flushing, to control the sweat that wanted to bead on her forehead. She had trained herself not to squint under the bright lights that were dim to most species, but harsh to human eyes. She had practiced sitting still when her muscles wanted to fidget, when her human restlessness begged for movement. Earth was a death world. Everyone in the galaxy knew this. Humans came from a planet with crushing gravity, wild temperature swings, aggressive microorganisms, and predators at every turn. But what most species did not fully understand was what living on such a world did to a species, what advantages it gave them, what made humans dangerous. Maya had learned this lesson during her first week at the academy. A Floraxian student had made a casual comment about human weakness, about how fragile their bones were, how easily their skin tore. The student had not meant offense. It was simply a fact, repeated in every biology text across the galaxy. Humans were classified as a Class 7 resilient species, while most galactic citizens ranked between Class 2 and Class 4. The lower the number, the more durable the species. But durability was not the same as capability. Maya had learned to hide her capabilities very carefully. She remembered the incident that had made her realize the truth. During a physical education class, students were meant to complete an obstacle course designed for average galactic physiology. Maya had hung back watching the other students. The course involved climbing a wall approximately 3 meters high, crossing a balance beam, and lifting a weight equivalent to 50 standard kilograms. Most students struggled. The Veltorians, with their rigid crystalline bodies, found climbing nearly impossible. The Floraxians, delicate plant-based beings, could barely lift the weights. Even the Zenthari, considered among the stronger species, took several minutes to complete the course. When Maya's turn came, she had to force herself to move slowly. She had to pretend the wall was challenging, to act like the balance beam required concentration, to grunt with effort when lifting the weight that felt like nothing to her. She had completed the course in what she thought was a mediocre time. The instructor had stared at her with all 4 eyes. Remarkable, he had said. For a human, that was when Maya understood. Her normal was their exceptional, and if she showed what she could really do, everything would change. So she learned to hide it. All of it. She hid her strength, never lifting anything heavier than necessary, always asking for help with tasks she could easily complete alone. She hid her reflexes, moving with deliberate slowness, never catching things that were dropped, always arriving a moment too late. She hid her endurance, breathing hard after light exercise, complaining about fatigue, taking frequent breaks. Most importantly, she hid her senses. Human senses were not supposed to be impressive. Compared to species with sonar, infrared vision, or electromagnetic detection, human sight and hearing seemed primitive, but humans had something else. They had pattern recognition that bordered on precognition. They had peripheral vision that could detect the slightest movement. They had hearing that could distinguish between hundreds of distinct sounds simultaneously. Maya used these advantages every day while pretending they did not exist. She knew when students were approaching from behind by the sound of their footsteps, but she always acted surprised when they appeared. She could read the emotional states of her classmates from tiny changes in posture and expression, but she pretended to be oblivious. She could smell the chemical signature of stress, fear, and excitement in those around her, but she never acknowledged it. It was exhausting, this constant performance. But it was necessary. The galaxy was not ready for the truth about humans. They saw humanity as they wanted to see them, as damaged survivors from a hostile world, struggling to adapt to civilized space. Charity cases, underdogs, harmless, let them think that. Let them underestimate. Let them believe the lies in their biology texts. Maya had plans. She was studying xenobiology not out of pure academic interest, but because she needed to understand the species around her, their weaknesses, their limits, their fears. She was gathering information, preparing for a future she could barely imagine but knew was coming, because humans were not staying on the sidelines forever. They were not going to remain the pitied newcomers, the weak species from the deadly world. Humans were survivors, adapters, apex predators wearing the mask of prey. But first they needed to be underestimated. They needed the galaxy to believe they were harmless. That was Maya's mission, whether she had chosen it or not. Represent humanity. Seem weak, seem safe, seem normal. Professor Takora's voice pulled her back to the present. Now let us discuss the human homeworld in greater detail. Earth represents one of the most extreme examples of a habitable planet that has produced sentient life. The gravity alone would be crushing to most of us here. Maya kept her expression neutral as her classmates turned to look at her with a mixture of pity and curiosity. She gave them a small, self-deprecating smile. "It's really not that bad," she said softly, playing her part perfectly. "You get used to it." The students turned back to the professor, satisfied. Just another weak human, grateful to be here. Maya returned to her notes, her hand steady, her breathing controlled. She did not let them see the predator behind her eyes. The afternoon combat simulation class was always the most challenging for Maya. Not because the exercises were difficult, but because she had to make them appear difficult. The simulation chamber was a vast space filled with holographic obstacles and targets. Students were paired randomly to complete teamwork exercises designed to test problem-solving under pressure. Today, Maya found herself partnered with Zixthar, a Manthari warrior caste student whose species prided themselves on their combat prowess. Zixthar stood nearly 8 feet tall, his forearms ending in blade-like appendages that could cut through steel. His exoskeleton was the color of midnight, decorated with the ceremonial scars of his clan. He looked down at Maya with barely concealed disappointment. "Try to keep up, human," he said, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "I will handle the primary threats. You focus on staying alive." Maya nodded meekly, her shoulders hunched in a posture of submission. Inside, she was measuring him. His balance was slightly forward, suggesting he relied on aggressive charges. His secondary arms twitched when he was about to move, a tell that would make him predictable in actual combat. His confidence was his weakness. The simulation began. Holographic enemies materialized around them, representing various hostile species from galactic history. The objective was simple: reach the extraction point at the far end of the chamber while neutralizing threats. Zixthar charged forward immediately, his blades flashing as he cut through the first wave of enemies. Maya followed at what appeared to be a cautious distance, her movements hesitant and uncertain. She fired her training weapon, deliberately missing more shots than she hit, her aim shaky and unpracticed. What her partner did not see were the micro-adjustments she was making. Every missed shot was carefully calculated to avoid hitting him while he fought. Every stumble she took was positioned to keep her in the optimal support position. Every moment of apparent hesitation was actually assessment and tactical planning. Halfway through the simulation, a holographic Kresh warrior appeared behind Zixthar. The Kresh were known as some of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy, their holographic representation towering and menacing. Zixthar was engaged with 3 enemies in front of him and had not seen the threat approaching from behind. Maya saw it instantly. Her human peripheral vision caught the movement before the creature fully materialized. She could have warned him. Should have warned him. That was what a weak, fragile human would do. Call out panic, hope her stronger partner could save them both. Instead, she made a calculation. If she warned him, he would turn and fight, probably sustain some simulation damage but survive. Their score would be average, unremarkable, but if she acted, Maya moved. She crossed the distance in 3 quick strides, her human legs carrying her faster than Zixthar's species could naturally move. She raised her weapon and fired, not with the shaky aim she had been displaying, but with the precision of someone who had been practicing since childhood, on a world where everything wanted to kill you. The shot hit the Kresh warrior's weak point, the small gap in its armor at the throat. In a real fight, it would have been a killing blow. In the simulation, the creature dissolved into pixels. But Maya had moved too fast, shot too accurately. Her mask had slipped. She caught herself immediately, forcing her breathing to become ragged, her hands to shake. She dropped to one knee as if the exertion had overwhelmed her. "Sorry," she gasped, her voice deliberately weak. "Adrenaline. I panicked and got lucky." Zixthar turned, his compound eyes widening as he processed what had happened. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Maya kept her head down, her body language screaming exhaustion and fear. Finally, he clicked his mandibles in what might have been approval. "Lucky indeed, human. Perhaps you are not entirely useless after all." Maya allowed herself a small, relieved smile, still keeping her breathing labored. Crisis averted. He had bought the explanation. Humans were known for unpredictable adrenaline responses, for performing random acts of capability under extreme stress. One good shot could be dismissed as panic-induced luck. They completed the rest of the simulation with Maya back in her role of struggling support. When the exercise ended and their scores were posted, they had achieved exactly average results. Perfect. As students filed out of the chamber, Maya overheard a conversation between 2 Veltorian students. "Did you see the human in Simulation Room 3? One was saying. "She actually hit a Kresh warrior simulation. First try. Probably a malfunction," the other responded. "Humans have terrible reaction speeds. Everyone knows that." Maya kept walking, her face neutral. Let them think it was a malfunction. Let them think anything except the truth. In the corridor outside, she found herself walking beside Janara, her chitinous classmate from xenobiology. Janara was one of the few students who had always treated Maya with genuine kindness rather than pity. "That was impressive in there," Janara said, her voice melodic despite coming from a mouth designed for entirely different sounds. "The shot, I mean." Maya tensed slightly but kept her expression friendly. "Just lucky. Wrong place, right time." Janara tilted her head in a gesture that suggested skepticism. "Luck seems to follow you often, Maya-chen. In chemistry last week, you accidentally prevented an explosion by moving a catalyst at exactly the right moment. In astrogation class, you guessed the correct stellar coordinates without using the calculation matrix. Now this." Maya's heart rate increased, but she controlled her physical response. No sweating, no pupil dilation, no tells. "Coincidence," she said lightly. "Besides, if I was actually good at any of this, don't you think I would show it? Why would I hide it?" It was a good question, and one that Janara clearly struggled to answer. Finally, she clicked her mandibles softly. "Why indeed? Perhaps I am seeing patterns where none exist. My species tends toward paranoia." "Nothing wrong with being careful," Maya said, relieved to have deflected the suspicion. "That's probably why your people have survived so long." They parted ways at the intersection of corridors, Janara heading toward the library, and Maya toward her dormitory. But as Maya walked away, she felt the weight of Janara's gaze on her back. The hexapodal species had pattern recognition senses that were among the best in the galaxy. If anyone was going to figure out the truth, it would be someone like Janara. Maya would have to be more careful. Much more careful. Back in her small dormitory room, Maya finally allowed herself to relax. She locked the door, disabled the surveillance sensors that were supposed to be disabled already, but she never quite trusted, and let out a long breath. The room was decorated to appear like a typical student's quarters. Posters of famous galactic landmarks, a small collection of plants from various worlds, personal items scattered artistically to suggest a casual, disorganized personality. But everything was calculated. Everything was part of the mask. Maya moved to her wall display and pulled up the current news feeds from Earth. Humanity's homeworld was still restricted to most galactic traffic, classified as too dangerous for casual visitors. Only heavily equipped research teams were allowed planetside, and even they had to follow strict protocols. The galaxy believed they were protecting their citizens from Earth's dangers. What they did not realize was that they were protecting themselves from humanity because Earth was preparing In the 200 years since first contact, humanity had been studying, learning, adapting. They had taken galactic technology and improved upon it. They had joined galactic institutions and learned every weakness. They had sent their best and brightest to academies like Zenith, not just to learn but to observe. Students like Maya. She was not alone. There were hundreds of humans scattered across galactic space, all of them playing the same role. All of them hiding their strength. All of them gathering information. All of them waiting for the signal that would never come because there was no grand conspiracy. No secret plan. But there did not need to be. Humans were patient. Humans were clever. And when the time came, when humanity decided to take its rightful place among the stars, the galaxy would realize its mistake. They had invited apex predators into their midst and taught them everything. They had underestimated the species from the death world. They had believed their own propaganda about human weakness. Maya looked at her reflection in the darkened window. Brown eyes stared back at her. Eyes that had evolved to hunt on plains where prey could blend into grasslands. Eyes that could track movement in the dimmest light. Predator's eyes, hiding behind a mask of prey. She smiled and for just a moment allowed herself to imagine a future where she did not have to hide. Where she could move at full speed, lift with full strength, react with full reflexes. Where humanity could show the galaxy what Death World evolution really meant. But that future was not today. Today she was still Maya Chen, the weak human student who got lucky sometimes. The charity case from Earth, the harmless girl who everyone underestimated. Tomorrow, she would put her mask back on and continue the performance. And she would be perfect at it, because that was what humans did best. They survived. The incident happened 3 days later, during what should have been a routine afternoon. Maya was in the Academy's recreational commons, a vast space where students from different species gathered between classes. The area was designed to accommodate everyone, with sections of varying gravity, atmosphere, and temperature. Maya sat in the standard zone, working on an assignment for her stellar mechanics class. Around her, the usual chaos of student life unfolded. A group of Zentari played a complex strategy game that involved moving pieces with their head tendrils. Several Floraxians tended to a communal garden, their photosynthetic bodies absorbing the artificial sunlight. Near the windows, Vol and 2 other gaseous thinkers were engaged in what appeared to be a philosophical debate, their containment spheres flashing different colors as they communicated. Maya had positioned herself at a corner table where she could observe multiple entrances while appearing to focus on her work. It was a habit she could not break, this constant awareness of her surroundings. On Earth, spatial awareness meant survival. In the Academy, it was just another thing she had to pretend not to have. She noticed the Kreshnar delegation the moment they entered the Commons. Kreshnar were a species that humanity had only recently encountered, and relations were tense. They were a warrior culture, proud and aggressive, who viewed most galactic species as weak and unworthy of respect. 3 of them moved through the Commons now, their massive forms clearing a path as other students instinctively moved aside. The lead Kreshnar was named Vorthan, a name Maya knew because he had made himself notorious in the few weeks since arriving at the Academy. He was constantly challenging other students to combat trials, pushing boundaries, testing limits. He had injured a Veltorian student badly enough to require medical intervention last week. The Academy authorities had warned him, but Kreshnar respected strength, not rules. Maya kept her eyes on her datapad but tracked Vorthan's movement through the room with her peripheral vision. He was heading toward the Zenthari game players, his posture aggressive. This was going to be trouble. Pathetic, Vorthan's voice boomed across the Commons. You play children's games while warriors train. This is why your species will always be conquered. Professor Takora's younger sibling, a student named Talara, looked up from the game board. We are not looking for conflict, Vorthan. Please let us be. Conflict finds the weak whether they look for it or not, Vorthan growled. He reached down and scattered the game pieces across the floor with one massive hand. Perhaps I should teach you what real struggle feels like. Other students were backing away now. The Kreshnar had a reputation for violence that their diplomatic status barely contained. Talara's tendrils trembled with fear, and Maya could smell the stress pheromones the Zenthari was releasing. Maya should have stayed out of it. Should have kept her head down. Should have maintained her role as the weak, passive human who avoided confrontation. Every instinct she had trained herself to follow screamed at her to remain seated, to let this play out, to not get involved. But Talara had been kind to her, had helped her with an assignment when she pretended to struggle with the material, had invited her to study groups and treated her like an equal rather than a charity case. Maya made a decision that she knew was dangerous. She stood up. "Hey," she called out, her voice deliberately light and non-threatening. "Maybe we could all just calm down? No need for anyone to get hurt over a game, right?" Fourth Hand turned, his predator's eyes fixing on her. He was easily 3 times her mass, his body covered in scales that could deflect most weapons, his arms ending in claws that could tear through metal. He looked at Maya the way a lion might look at a mouse that had squeaked at it. Then he laughed. It was a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the suddenly silent commons. "The human speaks," he said, moving toward her with slow, deliberate steps. "Tell me, tiny creature from the death world, do you think your words will stop me? Do you think I should fear you?" Maya kept her posture unthreatening, her hands visible, her body language submissive. "I don't want anyone to fear anyone," she said, maintaining her carefully crafted image. "I just thought maybe we could talk instead of fight." "Talking is nice, right?" She sounded pathetic to her own ears, weak, pleading. Exactly what a fragile human should sound like when confronted by a dangerous warrior. But she could see Vorthan's body language, could read the micro-expressions on his alien face. He was not backing down. He was escalating. "Talking is for the weak," Vorthan said, now standing directly in front of her. "Your species should have learned this by now. You come from a world of monsters, yet you behave like prey. It is disappointing." He reached out with one massive hand, clearly intending to push her aside, to dismiss her physically as he had dismissed her verbally. It was meant to be humiliating, a demonstration of power over the weakest species in the room. This was the moment. Maya could let herself be pushed, fall dramatically, play the victim. It would be the safe choice, the smart choice, the choice that maintained her cover, but something in her snapped. Maybe it was the weeks of constant performance. Maybe it was the stress of always hiding, always pretending, always being less than she was. Maybe it was just that she was tired of being underestimated. Whatever the reason, when Vorthan's hand came toward her, Maya moved. She did not think about it, did not calculate, did not plan. She simply reacted with every bit of speed and training that she had been suppressing for 2 years. Her hand snapped up and caught Vorthan's wrist in mid-motion. Her fingers, evolved to grip tools and weapons and tree branches on a high-gravity death world, locked around his scaled arm with crushing force. Her body pivoted, using leverage and momentum rather than pure strength. Her legs swept behind his knee, striking a joint that her xenobiology studies had taught her was vulnerable in Kreshnar physiology. Vorthan, 3 times her mass and supposedly one of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, toppled backward and hit the floor with a thunderous crash. The commons went absolutely silent. Maya stood over him, her hand still gripping his wrist, her body in a combat stance that she had not used since leaving Earth. For one crystalline moment, she was not Maya Chen, the weak human student. She was a representative of a species that had clawed its way to the top of Earth's food chain through violence and cunning, and the absolute refusal to be prey. Then reality crashed back in. She saw the expressions on every face around her: shock, fear, confusion. Janara's compound eyes were wide with recognition. Talara's tendrils had gone rigid with surprise. Foal's gaseous form had turned a color Maya had never seen before. And Vorthan, still on the floor, was staring up at her with something that might have been respect but looked a lot like terror. Maya released his wrist and stepped back, her mind racing to calculate the damage. Too fast, too skilled, too strong. She had moved like a fighter, like a predator, like exactly what she had been trying to hide. Her secret was not just exposed. It was lying on the floor in front of the entire commons, impossible to ignore. She started, her voice shaking now with genuine fear of what she had done. "I didn't mean to. I just reacted. Please, But there were no words that could put the mask back on. No explanation that would make sense. She had revealed herself and everyone had seen it. The whispers started immediately, students turning to each other, speaking in hushed tones in dozens of languages, data pads coming out to record, to document, to spread the news. Across the Academy network, the Weak human had just taken down a Kreshnar warrior in single combat, and nothing would ever be the same again. Maya looked around at the sea of staring faces and realized that her careful performance, her years of hiding, her mission to remain underestimated had all just shattered in a single moment of instinct. She had let her guard down for one moment, and now her secret was exposed to everyone. The aftermath was immediate and overwhelming. Within minutes, security personnel had arrived at the Commons. Within an hour, Maya found herself sitting in Director Zalthor's office, the highest authority at Zenith Academy. The director was an ancient Quintar, a species known for their wisdom and neutrality. His many eyes studied her from different angles simultaneously, each one processing information independently before synthesizing it into a complete understanding. "Miss Chen," Director Zalthor said, his voice like wind through crystal chimes, "you have created quite the situation." Maya sat with her hands folded in her lap, her posture deliberately small. She was still trying to calculate whether she could salvage this, whether there was any explanation that would put the genie back in the bottle. "I'm sorry, Director. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was just trying to help and I reacted without thinking." "Indeed." One of the director's primary eyes fixed on her, while the others continued to scan documents on multiple displays. "The medical team reports that Vorthan has a fractured wrist and significant damage to his knee joint. Injuries that will require several days of regeneration therapy. Injuries caused by a species classified as Class 7 resilience inflicted upon a species classified as Class 2 resilience." Maya said nothing. There was nothing to say. The facts spoke for themselves. "I have reviewed the recordings from the Commons," the director continued. "Your movement speed was remarkable. Your technique was flawless. Your understanding of Kreshnar physiology was precise. These are not the attributes of an untrained civilian who reacted without thinking, Miss Chen. Director, I can explain." "No." The word was gentle but firm. "I do not believe you can explain. Not in a way that would align with the image you have been carefully projecting since your arrival at this academy. But that is acceptable because explanation is not what this situation requires. What it requires is understanding." Maya looked up, confused. She had expected anger, punishment, possibly expulsion. Instead, the director's tone was almost curious. "I am old, Miss Chen, older than most species' recorded histories. In my time, I have observed countless civilizations rise and fall, and I have learned that the most dangerous moment in any species' development is when others stop underestimating them." Director Zalthor folded his primary manipulators in a gesture that suggested contemplation. "Humanity is approaching that moment." "I don't understand," Maya said carefully, "don't you? Let me share something that is not widely known outside of the Galactic Council chambers. In the past 5 years, there have been 47 incidents involving human students or workers across various institutions. Incidents where humans have displayed capabilities that vastly exceed their supposed limitations. A human engineer who solved a problem in zero gravity that should have been impossible for her species' spatial reasoning. A human diplomat who out-negotiated a merchant guild representative despite having inferior calculation abilities. A human pilot who flew maneuvers that should have caused fatal physiological stress. The director brought up a holographic display showing dozens of files, each one marked with the Earth symbol. Each incident was explained away. Adrenaline, luck, coincidence, malfunction. But 47 coincidences begin to form a pattern, Miss Chen. And those of us who pay attention have been watching that pattern develop. Maya's mind raced. She had known there were other humans doing what she was doing, but she had never imagined anyone was tracking them. Connecting the dots. Seeing the bigger picture. "Are you going to expose us?" she asked quietly. "Expose what exactly?" The director's tone was not unkind. "That humanity is more capable than their official classification suggests? That would require me to admit that the Galactic Council's entire system of species classification is flawed, that we have been fundamentally wrong about a crucial aspect of Death World evolution, that we may have underestimated a species that now has access to all our technology, all our knowledge, all our institutions." He leaned back in his seat, multiple eyes fixing on her with what might have been respect. "No, Miss Chen, I will not expose you. But I will tell you something important. Your secret was never as secret as you believed. Some of us have known or suspected for quite some time. We have simply chosen not to act on that knowledge." "Why?" Maya asked, genuinely confused. Because forcing a confrontation before humanity is ready would be catastrophic for everyone involved. Humanity is still young in galactic terms, still finding its place. If we were to officially acknowledge your capabilities now, it would trigger fear. Fear leads to restrictions. Restrictions lead to resentment. Resentment leads to conflict. And conflict with a species that has been hiding its true capabilities while infiltrating our institutions would be unfortunate for all parties. Director Zalthor pulled up another display, this one showing Earth in all its blue and green glory. Your homeworld is classified as one of the most dangerous planets ever to produce sentient life. Everything there wants to kill everything else. The gravity is crushing. The weather is catastrophic. The microbiology is aggressive. And yet humanity thrived, more than thrived. You became the apex predator of a world full of apex predators. We also became civilized, Maya said defensively. We're not just predators, no you are not. And that is what makes humanity truly fascinating. You are predators who learned cooperation, killers who developed empathy, warriors who created art and philosophy and love. You are the synthesis of violence and compassion. And that makes you unpredictable in ways the galaxy is not prepared to handle. The director closed the displays and looked at her with all his eyes simultaneously. Here is what will happen, Miss Chen. You will return to your classes. The incident will be officially recorded as a training accident during an unauthorized sparring session. Fourth Han has already agreed to this explanation, as the alternative is admitting he was defeated by what he considered a weak species, which would destroy his reputation. The other students will talk, but without official confirmation, it will remain speculation and rumor. You're covering it up, Maya said, not sure whether to feel relieved or insulted. I am maintaining stability, the director corrected. There will come a time when humanity's true capabilities become common knowledge. When that happens, the galaxy will have to adjust to a new reality, but that time is not today. Today, you are still Maya Chen, the human student who got lucky once again. Tomorrow, you will be more careful, and in the future, when humanity is ready to reveal itself fully, we will all have to deal with the consequences together. Maya stood, still processing everything she had heard. Director, what if humanity is never ready? What if we just keep hiding forever? Director Zalthor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Miss Chen, I have studied your species' history extensively. Humanity has never hidden from anything for long. It is not in your nature. You will reveal yourselves when the time is right, or when circumstances force your hand, or possibly just because you become too impatient with the pretense. But it will happen. Of that I am certain. As Maya turned to leave, the director spoke once more. And Miss Chen? When that day comes, I hope humanity remembers which members of the galaxy chose to give them time to prepare. We may need that goodwill in the years ahead. Maya walked out of the office into the corridor where she found Janara waiting. Her chitinous friend approached cautiously, as if unsure whether Maya was still the same person she had known. I knew something was different about you, Janara said softly. I just did not realize how different until today. Are you afraid of me? Maya asked, the question coming out more vulnerable than she intended. Janara considered this for a long moment. No, I am not afraid of you, Maya Chen. But I think perhaps I should be more respectful. My people have a saying. The most dangerous predator is the one you mistake for prey. I will not make that mistake again. They walked together toward the residential areas, neither speaking. Maya could feel the eyes of other students on her as they passed. Some looked curious, some looked frightened, some looked calculating, as if reassessing everything they knew about humans. The mask was broken. She could try to rebuild it, but it would never fit quite the same way again. Everyone who had been in that commons would remember what they had seen, would tell others, would spread the truth like a virus through the academy population, and beyond the academy, Maya realized. Because students talked to their families and families talked to their governments, and governments would start asking questions about exactly what humanity was capable of. She had changed something fundamental today, had started a chain reaction that could not be stopped. In defending a friend and standing up to a bully, she had potentially altered the course of human galactic relations. Back in her dormitory, Maya pulled up the secure communication channel that connected her to Earth's diplomatic corps. She had never used it before, had been instructed to only activate it in case of absolute emergency. This qualified. She typed out a message explaining what had happened, knowing that by morning, her actions would be discussed in government chambers on Earth and possibly in the Galactic Council itself. As she hit send, Maya allowed herself a smile. The next morning, Maya woke to find her dormitory door chiming constantly with visitors. Word had spread faster than she could have imagined, and now it seemed like every student in the academy wanted to see the human who had taken down a Kreshnar warrior. The first visitor she accepted was Krithax, her Veltorian classmate from xenobiology. His crystalline form refracted the morning light as he entered, his body language uncertain. Maya Chen, he said formally, using her full name for the first time. I come to apologize. Maya blinked in surprise. Apologize for what? For my assumptions. For my prejudice. In the 2 years we have been classmates, I have treated you with what I believed was kindness, but was actually condescension. I offered you help you did not need. I simplified explanations that you had already understood. I treated you as lesser because your biology text said you were lesser. Krithax's crystalline face somehow managed to convey shame. I was a fool. You weren't a fool, Maya said gently. You were working with incomplete information. We all were, perhaps, but I should have questioned that information. My people pride themselves on logical thinking, yet I accepted assumptions without evidence. He paused. His form shifting colors in what Maya had learned was a sign of deep thought. May I ask you something honestly? Of course. How much of what you showed us was real? In classes, when you struggled with assignments, when you asked for help, when you claimed to be tired or weak or confused, how much of that was genuine? Maya considered lying, then realized the time for lies had passed. Almost none of it. I understood most concepts faster than anyone else in our classes. I could have completed physical exercises that would have exhausted your strongest athletes. I was never lost, never confused, never as limited as I pretended to be. Krithax absorbed this information, his colors shifting through a spectrum of emotions. That must have been exhausting. To constantly perform weakness, to always hold yourself back. It was necessary, Maya said, or at least I thought it was. And now? What happens now that your secret is revealed? Maya shrugged, a gesture she knew Krithax found fascinating. I honestly don't know. I'm waiting to find out. After Krithax left, more visitors came. Some were curious. Some were angry, feeling deceived. Some were frightened, suddenly realizing they had been sharing space with apex predators who had been pretending to be harmless. Each conversation was difficult in its own way, but Maya handled them as honestly as she could. By afternoon, her communication console was flooded with messages from other human students across the galaxy. They had all seen the recordings by now. All knew that their collective cover had been compromised. Some were panicking. Some were relieved. Some were asking what they should do next. Maya responded to each one with the same message. Wait for instructions from Earth. Stay calm. Be honest about capabilities when asked directly. But do not volunteer information unnecessarily. Above all, remember that they were still ambassadors for humanity, and how they handled this crisis would shape galactic perception for generations. Then came the message she had been both dreading and anticipating. A summons to appear before the Academy's full faculty assembly. This was unprecedented. Faculty assemblies were usually reserved for major policy decisions or serious disciplinary matters. Maya was fairly certain she qualified for the latter. The assembly chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate faculty members from species of all sizes and environmental needs. Maya entered to find herself facing dozens of professors, instructors, and administrators. The room fell silent as she took her position at the center of the chamber. Professor Takora spoke first. Ms. Chen, we have called this assembly to address the incident from yesterday and its implications for the Academy. You have attended this institution for 2 years under what we now understand were false pretenses. With respect, Professor, I never lied about anything, Maya replied, keeping her voice steady. I simply did not correct your assumptions. A Flaraxian ethics professor rustled their leaves in agitation. Deception by omission is still deception. You allowed us to believe you were limited in ways you are not. How can we trust anything about humanity now? You cannot, Maya answered bluntly, and the chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. She waited for quiet before continuing. You cannot trust us any more than we can trust you. Trust is earned through honesty and time. For 2 years I was not honest. But neither were you. Explain that statement, Director Zalthor commanded from his position at the head of the assembly. Maya took a breath, knowing she was about to cross a line she could never uncross. You classified Earth as a death world. You labeled humans as weak, fragile, unsuited for civilized space. You created an entire narrative about us being survivors of a hostile environment who needed protection and assistance. And you did all of this without actually studying us properly, without understanding what living on a death world actually does to a species. She gestured around the chamber. How many of you have visited Earth? How many have studied human physiology beyond reading summary classifications? How many have considered that a species capable of surviving on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy might have evolved advantages, not just disadvantages? A Menthari combat instructor clicked his mandibles. We assumed your advantages were in endurance and resilience, not combat capability. You assumed wrong, Maya said simply. Earth did not just make us tough. It made us fast because slow prey does not survive. It made us intelligent because stupid predators starve. It made us adaptable because rigid species go extinct. It made us capable of functioning under stress that would kill most galactic species, because on Earth you either handle stress or you die. She looked directly at Professor Takora. You taught us about evolution in extreme environments. You taught us about survival adaptations. You taught us about apex predator development. You gave us all the knowledge we needed to understand what we are. And then you were surprised when we turned out to be exactly what evolutionary theory predicted we would be. The chamber was silent now, every faculty member processing her words. Finally, a small voice spoke up. It was Professor Mintar, an elderly Xylonian who taught philosophy. You speak of what Earth made you. But what have you made of yourselves? Evolution creates killers. Civilization creates citizens. Which are you? Maya smiled at the question, recognizing its wisdom. We are both, Professor. We are killers who chose civilization, predators who learned compassion, warriors who value peace. We are the synthesis of our origins and our choices, just like every other sentient species in this room. But you are more dangerous than the others, someone called out. Are we? Maya challenged. The Kreshnor have weapons that can destroy planets. The Veltorians have technology that can manipulate matter at the quantum level. The Zinthari have diplomatic networks that control galactic trade. Every species here has the capacity for tremendous destruction. The difference is that you have decided we are dangerous because we are good at personal violence. But violence is the least of what humanity can offer. She pulled up a holographic display from her datapad, showing images of Earth. My planet has produced violence, yes, but it has also produced music that makes people weep, art that transcends language, philosophy that questions existence itself. We have literature, mathematics, science, culture. We have thousands of languages, millions of stories, billions of individual perspectives. We are not just our capacity for violence, we are so much more. The images shifted to show human achievements. The first moon landing, the International Space Station, works of art from every culture, mathematical equations that had advanced galactic science, music that had been added to the galactic cultural database. You have been underestimating us, Maya continued. But in doing so, you have also been undervaluing us. You saw the dangerous animal from the death world and missed the civilization that animal built. You saw the warrior and missed the poet. You saw the predator and missed the protector. Professor Takora's tendrils moved in what Maya had learned was deep thought. What would you have us do now, Miss Chen? Now that we know the truth about human capabilities? Treat us fairly, Maya said simply. Not as charity cases to be protected. Not as threats to be contained, but as equals, partners, colleagues. We came to this academy to learn, yes, but also to contribute. Let us contribute honestly. Let us show you what humanity can really offer when we stop pretending to be less than we are. Director Zalthor spoke, his voice carrying authority that silenced all other whispers. The Council of Faculty will deliberate on this matter. Miss Chen, you are dismissed while we discuss. Maya bowed respectfully and left the chamber. Outside, she found a crowd of students had gathered, clearly waiting to hear the outcome. Janara moved to her side immediately. That was either very brave or very foolish, her friend said quietly. Probably both, Maya admitted. But I'm tired of hiding. Tired of pretending. If humanity is going to be part of galactic civilization, it needs to be as we actually are, not as we pretend to be. They waited for over an hour. Students came and went, but a core group remained. Curious about the outcome, Maya noticed that the group included. The news spread through galactic channels like wildfire through dry grass. Within days, every major news network was running stories about the human student who had defeated a Kreshnar warrior. Analysis programs debated the implications. Talk shows featured experts discussing what this meant for humanity's place in galactic civilization. And on Earth, the response was equally dramatic. Maya watched the coverage from her dormitory, feeling the weight of having started something she could not control. Some human representatives on Earth were calling her a hero. Others suggested she had jeopardized humanity's security by revealing capabilities too soon. Still others argued that the reveal was inevitable and perhaps even beneficial. The galactic response was more mixed than she had expected. Yes, there was fear. Yes, there was suspicion. But there was also fascination. Scientists wanted to study human physiology. Military strategists wanted to understand human combat techniques. Anthropologists were requesting permission to visit Earth and study human culture directly. And there were others, species who revealed they had suspected the truth all along. A Vrin historian published an article detailing 40 instances of humans displaying unusual capabilities throughout their 200-year history in galactic space. A Quintar mathematician released calculations showing that human evolution on a high-gravity death world should have produced exactly the attributes Maya had demonstrated. The evidence had been there all along. People had simply chosen not to see it. The most surprising response came from the Kreshnar Dominion itself. Instead of outrage at Vorthan's defeat, the Kreshnar leadership declared that they had been wrong to judge humans as weak. A warrior culture respected strength above all else, and humanity had proven their strength. The Dominion formally requested to establish a cultural exchange program with Earth, specifically to learn from human combat disciplines. Maya received a personal message from Vorthan himself. It was brief and to the point. You fought with honor. I underestimated you. I will not make this mistake again. Perhaps one day you will teach me the techniques of your people. The message was followed by a formal apology and a Kreshnar honor token, a significant gesture in their culture. Maya stared at the virtual token on her screen, amazed that what had started as a moment of lost control had somehow earned her respect from one of the galaxy's most feared warrior species. But not everyone was ready to embrace the new reality. 3 days after the faculty assembly, protests began outside the academy. A coalition of species who called themselves the Protection League gathered with signs and chants, demanding that humans be restricted from positions of authority or influence until their true capabilities could be fully assessed. Humans are predators, pretending to be prey, one protester shouted into a recording device. They have infiltrated our institutions, our governments, our military. Who knows what they are planning? Maya watched the protest from a classroom window, Janara standing beside her. Fear is a powerful thing, Janara observed. Humans went from being objects of pity to objects of fear in a matter of days. That is a difficult transition for many species to process. I know, Maya said quietly. I just wish I could make them understand that we are not planning anything sinister. We just wanted to be taken seriously. The problem is not what humans are planning now, a voice said behind them. They turned to find Professor Takora entering the room. The problem is what humans could plan in the future. You are a young species with ancient predator instincts and advanced technology. That combination frightens those who remember history. The professor moved to the window. Her tendrils moving in a pattern Maya had learned indicated deep concern. Galaxy history is full of species who gained power quickly and used it poorly. The Kreshnar Dominion nearly destroyed themselves and 3 neighboring species before they learned restraint. The Veltorian crystalline wars devastated entire sectors. Every species with significant capability has a dark chapter in their past. So everyone is waiting for humanity's dark chapter? Maya asked. They are wondering if humanity will have one. If your predator nature will overcome your civilized restraint. If the killers will forget the lessons of the poets you mentioned so eloquently in the assembly. Professor Takora turned to face them. This is why your performance these past 2 years was dangerous, Miss Chen. Not because you were hiding your capabilities, but because you were hiding your character. The galaxy needs to see not just what humans can do, but who humans choose to be. The professor pulled up a holographic display showing various historical events. Humanity has been part of galactic civilization for 200 years, but you have remained mysterious. You restricted access to Earth. You limited information about your culture. You sent representatives who deliberately underperformed. In trying to seem harmless, you made yourselves seem secretive. And secretive predators are the most frightening kind. Maya felt the truth of those words sink in. They had been so focused on not seeming threatening that they had failed to build genuine trust. They had given the galaxy reasons to pity them, but few reasons to know them. "What should we do?" she asked. "Be honest, be open. Be yourselves in all your complexity. Show the galaxy the full spectrum of human nature. The violence and the compassion, the strength and the vulnerability, the predator and the protector. Let them see who you really are." Professor Takora's tendrils touched Maya's shoulder gently. "You started something, Miss Chen. Now you must help finish it properly." That evening, Maya received a message from Earth's diplomatic corps. They wanted her to give an interview to the galaxy's largest news network, to serve as a representative voice for humanity in this moment of revelation. It was a significant responsibility, one that could shape galactic perception of her entire species. She accepted. The interview was scheduled for the following day and would be broadcast live across galactic channels. Maya spent the night preparing, not by rehearsing answers, but by thinking about what she really wanted to say, about what message humanity needed to send in this crucial moment. When the time came, she found herself seated across from Kelrin, a respected journalist from the observant species, known for their ability to perceive truth through micro-expressions and pheromone readings. There would be no hiding from someone like Kelrin. No performance, only honesty, Miss Chen, Kelrin began. Their sensor arrays focused intently on her. "The galaxy wants to know, why did humanity hide their true capabilities?" Maya took a breath. "Because we were afraid, not of violence or conflict, but of rejection. We came from Earth, a planet the galaxy classified as horrifyingly dangerous. We were the survivors of a death world, and we thought that meant we would be seen as monsters. So we tried to seem harmless. We thought if we could appear weak, we would be accepted, and now I understand that was a mistake. By hiding what we were, we prevented the galaxy from knowing who we are. We are strong, yes. We are capable of violence, yes. But we are also capable of tremendous compassion, creativity, and cooperation. You cannot know the full truth of humanity by seeing only half of us." Kelrin's sensors flickered with what might have been approval. "There are those who say humanity is dangerous, that your predator nature makes you a threat to galactic peace. What do you say to them?" Maya met their gaze directly. "I say that every species is dangerous in its own way. The Veltorians can manipulate matter. The Zinthari can collapse economies with diplomatic maneuvers. The Kreshnar have weapons that can crack planets. But we do not fear these species because we understand they have chosen to use their capabilities responsibly. We ask only for the same consideration. Judge us by our actions, not by your fears. What are humanity's intentions in galactic space? The same as any species. We want to survive, to thrive, to contribute, to grow. We want to share our culture and learn from others. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves." Maya leaned forward slightly. "Humans did not claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain just to dominate. We did it to survive. And once we survived, we built civilizations. We created art and music and philosophy. We learned to cooperate across tribal lines, across cultural boundaries, across entire continents. We are not just predators. We are builders. And we want to build a future with the galaxy, not against it. Some say that humanity should be restricted until their capabilities are fully understood and assessed." Maya felt anger flash through her, but controlled it carefully. Restricting people based on fear of what they might do is the foundation of every atrocity in history. We should be judged by our actions, by our character, by our choices, not by assumptions about our biology. If humanity proves to be aggressive or destructive, then restriction might be warranted. But we have not done so. We have been peaceful members of galactic civilization for 2 centuries. Our only crime has been not advertising how strong we are. The interview continued for another hour, covering everything from human culture to Earth's ecology, to humanity's vision for their future in galactic space. Maya answered every question honestly, holding nothing back, showing the galaxy exactly who and what humans were. When it ended, she felt exhausted but also lighter. 6 months passed, and the galaxy was still adjusting to the truth about humanity. Maya stood in the same xenobiology lecture hall where her journey had begun, but everything was different now. Professor Takora was teaching a revised curriculum that included accurate information about human capabilities, drawn from data that humans had finally agreed to share. The outdated classifications had been removed. The assumptions had been corrected, and humans were no longer treated as fragile survivors who needed protection. The other students treated Maya differently too. Not with fear as she had initially worried, but with respect. When she participated in combat simulations now, she moved at full speed, fought with full capability, and her scores were genuinely impressive. When she completed academic assignments, she no longer pretended to struggle with concepts she understood immediately. When she engaged in discussions, she offered insights without worrying whether they were too advanced for a weak species. It was exhausting in a completely different way. Not the exhaustion of constant performance, but the exhaustion of living up to the new expectations that came with honesty. The galaxy now knew what humans were capable of, and they expected humans to deliver on that capability. But there were benefits too. Human students across the galaxy were reporting similar experiences. No more condescension. No more assumptions of inferiority. Instead, opportunities were opening up that had been closed before. A human had been appointed to a senior position in galactic security. Another was leading a research team studying extreme environment habitation. Human artists, musicians, and writers were being invited to contribute to galactic cultural projects without their work being dismissed as primitive. Earth itself was changing too. The restrictions on visiting the planet were being gradually lifted as the Galactic Council acknowledged that a death world that produced capable beings was not simply a hazard to be avoided, but a valuable source of unique evolutionary adaptations. Scientists wanted to study Earth's ecology. Diplomats wanted to visit human cities. Artists wanted to experience human culture in its native environment. Maya had received an invitation to return to Earth for a conference on human galactic relations. She would be going home for the first time in 3 years, and she found herself both excited and anxious about how much might have changed. Before leaving the academy for her journey home, she had one final meeting. Director Zalthor had requested her presence in his office. "Miss Chen," the ancient Quintar greeted her warmly, "I wanted to speak with you before your departure." "To thank you, actually." "Thank me?" Maya was surprised. "I created a massive diplomatic incident." "You created necessary disruption," the director corrected. "Sometimes the truth must be disruptive to break through entrenched falsehoods." The galaxy was operating under dangerous assumptions about humanity. Those assumptions would have eventually led to conflict, either because humans would have tired of hiding, or because the galaxy would have discovered the truth in a less controlled situation. What you did, intentionally or not, was force an honest conversation before things reached a crisis point. The director pulled up holographic displays showing various developments across the galaxy. "Look at what has happened in 6 months. 12 new joint human-alien research projects, 5 diplomatic exchanges that would have been impossible before, 3 peacekeeping initiatives that benefit from human capabilities, and most importantly, a shift in how the galaxy thinks about Death World evolution." He highlighted one particular document. The Galactic Council is revising its entire classification system for species development. They are acknowledging that extreme environments do not just produce survivors, but innovations. That adversity creates advantage. That the species we thought were weakest might actually possess unique strengths. This is a fundamental shift in galactic thinking, and it started with you refusing to continue a comfortable lie. "It wasn't comfortable," Maya said quietly. "Hiding was never comfortable. I know. And that is why humanity will succeed in galactic civilization. Because you understand that comfort is not always the same as progress. That sometimes growth requires risk. That honesty, even painful honesty, builds stronger foundations than convenient deception." Director Zalthor's many eyes focused on her with what looked like pride. "You have been an excellent student, Miss Chen. Not just of xenobiology, but of the more important lessons about courage, integrity, and the complexity of building bridges between different peoples. The galaxy is better for having honest humans in it. Never forget that." Maya left the director's office feeling a sense of closure and new beginning simultaneously. Her time at the academy was ending, but her role in shaping human galactic relations was just beginning. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks on a diplomatic transport. Maya spent the time preparing for the conference and connecting with other human students who were also returning home. They swapped stories about their experiences, laughed about the absurd lengths they had gone to hide their capabilities, and discussed seriously what role they wanted to play in humanity's future. When Earth finally appeared in the viewport, Maya felt her breath catch. The blue and green sphere that had shaped her species was just as beautiful as she remembered. The swirling clouds, the vast oceans, the continents where billions of humans lived their lives on the planet. The galaxy had classified as a death world. But Maya saw it differently now. Not as a world of horrors, but as a world of teachers. Every dangerous animal had taught humans to be faster. Every hostile environment had taught them to be smarter. Every challenge had taught them to adapt. Earth had not tried to kill humanity. It had tried to make humanity worthy of the stars. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere, and Maya felt the familiar pull of Earth's gravity. What had once seemed normal now felt heavy after years in the lighter standard galactic gravity. But her body adjusted quickly, muscles that had been partially suppressed for years working at full capacity again. The conference was held in Geneva, at the headquarters of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Thousands of delegates had gathered, both human and alien, to discuss the new era of human-galactic relations. Maya was scheduled to give a keynote speech about her experiences, but first she had some personal time to reconnect with family and friends. Her parents met her at the facility entrance. Her mother's embrace was fierce, and her father's eyes were wet with tears. They had watched her interview, had seen the recordings of her fight with Vorthan, had experienced the same fear and pride that she imagined all human parents felt watching their children navigate this new reality. "You've changed the world, Maya," her mother said. "Our world and theirs. I just stopped lying," Maya replied. The truth was always there. They spent the evening together, talking about everything that had happened and everything that might come next. Her parents told her about changes on Earth, about how humanity was embracing their new role in galactic civilization with characteristic enthusiasm. Earth cities were being prepared for alien visitors. Human schools were adding galactic studies to their curricula. Human businesses were forming partnerships with alien corporations. Earth was no longer trying to hide from the galaxy. They were engaging with it fully and honestly. The next day, Maya stood before the conference assembly to deliver her speech. The room was filled with humans and aliens, all waiting to hear from the student who had accidentally sparked a revolution in human-galactic relations. 6 months ago, Maya began, I let my guard down for one moment. I stopped pretending to be weak and showed my true capability. In that moment, I exposed a secret that humanity had been keeping for 2 centuries. But I also exposed something more important, a secret we had been keeping from ourselves. She looked out at the diverse faces watching her. We told ourselves we were hiding our strength to stay safe. But really, we were hiding because we were afraid we would not be accepted as we truly are. We thought the galaxy could only love us if we seemed harmless. We did not trust them to see the whole truth and still welcome us. That was wrong. Not wrong to be cautious, not wrong to be careful, but wrong to think that genuine acceptance could be built on deception. You cannot form real partnerships with people who do not truly know you. You cannot build trust on a foundation of lies, even lies told with good intentions. Maya pulled up images from her time at the academy. When I stopped hiding, I was terrified. I thought I would be rejected, feared, possibly expelled from galactic society. But something unexpected happened. Once the initial shock passed, once beings got past their fear, they became curious. They wanted to know us, the real us. And when we finally showed them who we are, in all our complexity and contradiction, many of them were impressed rather than horrified. She showed footage from the interview with Kelrin, from the revised academy curriculum, from the various collaborations now forming between humans and other species. This is what honesty created. Not perfect acceptance, not universal love, but genuine engagement. Real partnerships built on mutual understanding and respect. Humanity is strong. We are capable. We are dangerous when we need to be. But we are also compassionate, creative, and committed.